everyone, and welcome to RnA ReSet. I'm Savi from the marketing department.
And I'm Ali from the customer service department.
And today we have Dr. Carolyn Dean with us. So happy to have you here this weekend.
Thank you for coming.
And this segment is called Clearing It Up with Carolyn.
Today we're going to cover some of our frequently asked questions in the customer service department. A few of those topics are going to include sea salt, magnesium with vitamin D, magnesium in the kidneys, and then our ReStructure protein powder.
Okay, so let's get started. The first question is, why do we even need to have the sea salt in our water or our ReMag water?
Okay, that's easy. Because what's happened with our water, we're supposed to get minerals in the water we drink. In the spring, when the water comes down the mountainside and the ice scrapes all those rocks, that's where the minerals come from, and they land in the floodplains at the end of the river before they get into the sea, and that's where we are supposed to grow our vegetables. Now we put our houses there. We're not getting minerals in the water we drink, and then in the water treatment plants it's filtered to remove yucky stuff, but also it removes minerals. We are pretty much drinking empty, dead water. So I go for the sea salt in the water because it has 72 different minerals. You can put, my guidelines are a quarter teaspoon in each liter of water you drink. And you drink that through the day and your body craves it. Those minerals will pull the water into your cells so that the different metabolic functions of the cells can occur properly with the minerals in the water. So that's why you need sea salt in your water.
So the next question we have is, are there any adverse side effects like with blood pressure or the heart?
With the sea salt?
Yes.
Good question, because that comes up a lot because people have been told not to eat salt. But table salt is just one mineral. It's sodium chloride. And sea salt is 72 minerals. So there's a big, big difference. And when people just take the sea salt, that can retain fluid and maybe build up edema in the legs or even in the fingers, where you can't even do that with your fingers. So with the sea salt, it's a whole different world. There's a great book called The Salt Fix by a PhD salt researcher. And he's done so much good work on salt, and he says sea salt is really necessary. So in order to arm yourself when your doctor says to you, what do you mean you're drinking sea salt water? That's horrible. You have this book, you refer to it, and if your doctor doesn't want to look at that, then you know in your own mind, you read this information and you prove to yourself that you really need the sea salt, and it is not table salt.
Right.
Okay.
And everything is okay in moderation.
Perfect. Yeah, that's right, Ali, because when they do a study, they tend to really pile on the drug or the nutrient, or they'll give these poor mice a cup of sea salt, and they'll say, see, it killed them.
Right.
But with the sea salt, we're talking about an amount that is like the recommended daily allowance of sodium, because there are so many other minerals in the sea salt. It's not just sodium.
Okay.
Great. Awesome.
Wow, that is great. Do you have any specific brands that you recommend?
Oh, that's a question, because now that sea salt is so popular, it's flooding the market. So what I've begun to say is look for unrefined salt, which you can tell if the salt has some color to it. In Maui, I use a copper-colored salt because that's what our rocks produce close to the sea. Some areas, like there's the pink Himalayan salt. There's a deep gray salt that I'm trying out right now. So I tell people, rotate, use different ones. Biodiversity. Don't get stuck in one thing. Keep switching it up.
So we get a lot of questions concerning magnesium working with vitamin D in the body, and I was just wanting to know if you can clear up the stigma behind vitamin D and magnesium.
Right. That came about when I think calcium was put to the side, because we found out from about a dozen studies that women who take calcium supplements are at a higher risk for heart disease. What happened there is most calciums are very hard to absorb. So if you're only absorbing 4 to 10% of the calcium, calcium actually builds up and deposits or precipitates in soft tissue, which includes your arteries, which includes your kidneys and your gallbladder and fibromyalgia tissue and breast tissue. So that sort of became a problem. Some doctors read the studies and said, oh, no more calcium. But it's almost like they have to have their favorite one nutrient to recommend. And then it became vitamin D, because there were some good vitamin D studies that showed that we didn't get enough vitamin D in our diet anymore. People aren't in the sun in the wintertime to get their sunshine vitamin D. So they began to test vitamin D, and they found that the test that they were using, which actually is for inactive vitamin D, by the way, they found, it's very low, and they thought, well, we want as high as possible. So if the range is like from 25 or 30 to 100, let's go for 100. Right. But vitamin D is a hormone. It's not a vitamin. So when you look at the way hormones work in the body, they work to enhance or speed up metabolism or slow down metabolism, depending on what your body needs. There's all kinds of intricate mechanisms working around the hormones. Endocrinology is freakily complex. You've got this hormone D that people are acting like it's a vitamin, and they're saying, well, let's take a lot of it. And you're using a test that isn't even the active form. So then in comes magnesium, and magnesium is necessary to make that inactive vitamin D into the active form. So we now have doctors who are, all gung-ho, I'm really into nutrition, I'm going to recommend 50,000 units of synthetic vitamin D, whereas the RDA is back around 400 international units so far. 400 to 50,000. And those 50,000 units of vitamin D will be pulling on your magnesium to change it from its inactive form to its active form. So I started to get people reporting to me, oh my gosh, my vitamin D was low in my blood test. My doctor said to take 50,000 units, maybe just once a week, but still. And all my magnesium deficiency symptoms came back. So they were creating magnesium deficiency with this vitamin D, causing the symptoms, and for a long time, nobody knew what was going on until they talked to me. They'd go on, one woman, for 6 or 8 weeks, she had a migraine headache, and nothing could stop it until I don't know if she called me or read something that I wrote, and said, oh my gosh, it's the vitamin D. People can be so magnesium deficient, they'll go into the sun, they'll go to the beach, get a lot of sun, and then start twitching and getting crampy and get a migraine because the sun is pulling their magnesium to make their vitamin D work. It's awesome. Just a few minutes ago, someone sent me a new 2018 research article that says vitamin D doesn't work unless you have magnesium. And boom, we're starting to get people realizing this and realizing you really only need maybe 1,000 to 2,000 units of vitamin D and your magnesium, especially ReMag, and then your body can go to work. But it's this forcing it with high doses, and we know better, blah, blah, blah. So you get this high amount and you throw everything off. And that's just not the way I like to work. It's like low potency, what is it we say in customer service? Go slow and
low and slow.
Low and slow.
Sum it up to make sure I'm clear on this. You need more magnesium than you do vitamin D, or is it the other way around?
Well, you need them both in good amounts. So
okay.
yeah, it's the vitamin D 1 to 2,000 units, and the magnesium, I'm always saying 600 milligrams of the ReMag.
Right.
And if you find when you're taking the vitamin D, you feel a little twitchy or whatever, well, you need more magnesium. Start figuring it out.
Right. Work with it.
Right. When
Awesome.
I started eating more calcium in my ketogenic diet, I started getting a little twitchy. So, duh, I need more magnesium.
Fabulous. That was a great answer. And then this one is also a very complicated topic I get a lot of questions on. Are people with kidney issues and using the magnesium? They are very concerned with their safety for that. So can you kind of clear some of that up for us?
Right. What happened there is a lot of these medical myths start in the hospital with very sick people. So what they may have done in the past is found that somebody's magnesium levels were really low and put up a high-dose magnesium intravenous, really pumped it in, and then found out that it was building up in the blood. So the next blood test would show, oh, wow, too much magnesium, red alert. And that's what they do in hospitals. I mean, I was there, worked in hospitals. They, the test is low, oh, pump it up. Oh, the test is too high. It was never low and slow in the hospital. It was always mega dosing. So I think that got into the medical literature that, if you give someone with kidney disease magnesium, their kidneys can't clear it fast enough, and it'll build up in the blood. And way high blood magnesium can affect the heart. It'll speed it up or slow it down or do all kinds of different things, but that never happens when you're taking oral magnesium.
Okay.
Because when you take oral magnesium, you will flush it out with our safety factor, which is the laxative effect. But intravenously, you can get it, so high that, your daily bowel movement is the next morning or whatever. It just doesn't build up.
Right.
Intravenously. So yeah, it's been a real difficult problem. I think what folks should do is go to some of my blogs where I talk about kidney disease and magnesium. Customer service will give the excerpt from my 2017 edition of Magnesium Miracle, or get the book and read that chapter, because it's really important. I've got the story of a PhD medical researcher who's on dialysis, and she realized, just because of her symptoms, she started Googling, leg cramps, heart palpitations. She came upon me in ReMag, and she started to take ReMag, and she realized, oh my gosh, I've become very magnesium deficient. Every time I take dialysis, I feel these symptoms. Everybody in my dialysis unit is having heart palpitations, leg cramps, twitching, insomnia. They feel terrible. And so she realized, and she did some experiments, and she made her doctors do a before and after dialysis magnesium test, and she said, look, it's going down,
Right.
do something. And she was already doing something for herself, but what she wanted them to do is in the dialysis that she was getting, some people get intravenous, some people, what else did they do for that? Oh yeah, intra-abdominal. And she just wanted them to put magnesium in the dialysate bag.
Okay.
Because these kidney doctors are so afraid of magnesium, they leave it out. And they don't realize you flush out that magnesium when you're on dialysis.
Right. And ultimately become more deficient.
Yes, it's really, and it's almost, well, we never learned about nutrients in medical school. I mean, that was like, forget about it. And that's very sad, because the doctors are missing the symptoms of magnesium deficiency, diagnosing them as disease, and treating them with drugs.
Ah.
Yep.
So is there any certain protocol for kidney patients to follow when using ReMag, or should we just do low and slow again?
Low and slow. You got it.
Perfect. So stick to it.
Great phrase.
All right, and then, all right, that closes the kidneys. Thank you.
So next topic is about our ReStructure protein powder. And a lot of people ask why you use whey protein instead of soy protein and why it's not vegan.
Soy protein. Well, as you can tell, I'm not a fan of soy. I think it started when I tried different diets over the years. I tried a macrobiotic diet, which is heavy soy, tofu. Tempeh is a little better because it's fermented.
Okay.
So in order to get my protein, I was eating a lot of soy, and I felt horrible. It just didn't agree with me. You know, maybe I'm allergic, but then I heard from many people over the years that we don't digest soy very well. Soy in Asian countries is fermented, and that's how it's mostly used. Miso soup, tempeh, the whole tofu business, that just got escalated where people were eating, you know, half a pound of tofu to get their protein as vegetarian. But what you'll see just in Asian restaurants, they will cut up the tofu in little tiny pieces and put it in the miso and sort of push it out of the way. They are not eating it wholesale. So then when the protein powder market started escalating, you know, everybody, no time to eat breakfast, or athletes wanting more protein, all that began, and they were looking for cheap forms of protein, and soy was one of them. And it really is hard to digest. I remember one herbalist friend, she would do these weekend retreats, and she'd say to her mostly vegetarian audience, do me an experiment. Get off your soy for the weekend and tell me how you feel. And she said it was incredible. People would say, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not bloating and, you know, burping and sounds out the other end. Right. I'm sleeping better.
The last question we have for you is, what is your favorite recipe to make with your protein powder?
Oh.
What do you use it for?
Right. Well, now that I'm on keto diet, which is low carb and high fat, I will spin that up with half cup of macadamia nuts and water. I'll put in some heavy whipping cream or coconut milk for more fat, and berries. Blueberries would be the lowest sugar content. Raspberries next, strawberries next. I use a lot of strawberries. So blending that up, you've got maybe 5-8 grams of carbs, and I might have like 25 grams of fat. And there's the 11 grams of protein in one serving of ReStructure. And I'll put an egg in, and that's sort of a balance of fat and protein. So I'm working the keto diet when I'm doing my ReStructure.
That sounds like a really yummy milkshake.
That's pretty tasty.
It is.
All right, well, that's it. And this has been Clearing It Up with Carolyn. Thanks you, Carolyn, for being with us
so much.
today.
Hey, girls, that was awesome.
Woo! And
Get happy.